Alright, so welcome to my happiness class. Zonji, I appreciate you being here, and a few other people will join in a second. Okay, today, as usual, I'm doing my weekly happiness class. Do check out bigquestionsanswer.com. This is lesson 3 in the whole series. Today is money and how to buy happiness. So I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible.
Well, I've got to say to you that English, you can't really buy happiness. You can't buy
I'm going to show you how it's been proven that you can buy happiness, but maybe in a way you don't expect, right? Maybe the opposite, right, of what you expected. So number one, I want to break it into 3 stages: how you can buy happiness right now, and then how you can buy happiness forever, and then how you can buy happiness for the world, right? And I'm going to try to do it as fast as I can. A bit of common sense, a bit of logic. By the way, it's all based, whatever I say is based on psychology and based on Islam, inspired by Islam, right?
I personally, I don't really talk about religion.
That's sure. I'm gonna hope you like religion by the end of what I'm gonna say, because all I'm gonna say is being kind and being nice, that kind of stuff.
All I'm saying is because you see all the problems around the planet, yeah, is all caused by those. Because I don't like speaking about religion.
I'm gonna tell you the opposite. I'm gonna prove the opposite. Is that all right? That'd be nice, right?
I think I see if you can convince me,
sure.
But I don't think.
Cool. And I'm not here to convince people. All I do is share information, because I'm a Londoner and I see a lot of misery all the time. And I think, oh, that's my camera, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
What I do need to worry. That's my camera. Can you just put? That's my camera. I know it's really low tech. Can you just?
I'm not doing it.
Oh, okay, fine. Alright, okay, thank you. Alright, cool, yeah, you can... Okay, so anyway, so let's quickly get through this. The first thing is, if you focus on people who have less than you, you realize how rich you are suddenly. Okay? So it's a really weird thing that human beings do, that for some reason, despite having loads of things, we always focus on what we don't have. We go, what's the one thing we don't have? Unless usually somebody else has it, that's why we're focusing on it. And we say we wish we had that, and somehow we totally forget about everything we have. Now, I'm going to talk about a magic trick, and it goes like this. Then you think about a homeless person, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I got a house. And suddenly, a house comes into your mental experience of the world, and you start appreciating it. Then you look how little food he has, and you realize, oh my gosh, I've got food. Do you know what I mean? And so we might think that... Go on.
I've got to say one thing, because you're talking about happiness, you're talking about people that, what they have, what they don't have. If you look at society at the moment, society has been framed that way just to control people and to enslave people. Because if you look at the only species in the planet that pays to live in a place or homes or anything like apart from animals is a human being, which is hypocrisy. Do you know what I mean? Because if you look at right now, all animals outside the planet, yeah, all animals outside the planet, they live happy. They live happy. But human being, they created all the troubles, they created the homes, and they said you can pay for it, made up the money, made up all of that, and they said, all right, that's what it is, and that's how you can be happy. You can be happy if you go through that way.
Okay, so, okay.
That's what I said, yeah.
Right, so there's different ways. There could be all sorts of reasons why we might pay for things. Somebody does some work, and we're in a very advanced society which uses money just to say thank you very much for your hard work. That's all it is, right? It's not really enslavement, but it can be enslavement, and I'll touch on... Yeah, it can be that some people take advantage of the system, and I'm going to show you how you can undo that. Because we can complain all we like, but we need to have solutions. And I'm talking about solutions as well. So number one is, instead of feeling miserable all the time, okay, and making ourselves miserable, I don't know why we do, well, I kind of know why we do, but we do make ourselves miserable by ignoring the things we do have. Don't you agree? We should...
No, I don't agree with that, because you're saying to me miserable, but how do you know that? How do you know that I'm miserable? That some other people might going to be miserable because they are focusing on something that which is someone else that told them that's how we can be happy. You understand?
So I'm talking about loads of people are saying that they're depressed, and depression levels are going higher. People are taking antidepressants, so that's why I think in the West, especially, people are getting more depressed. That's why I think people are getting depressed, because all the psychologists I can see around me. When I go to the Middle East, I see people happier. When I come back here, I know people are depressed because they don't even make eye contact. They barely smile, right? So that's my reason.
The answer though.
Not at all. Medication is just a plaster. It's not solving the problem, right? It's great. So we're already agreeing on things, right? I'm not trying to say anything that's like mind-boggling. I'm kind of saying pretty obvious things, but the reason why I'm sharing these obvious things is because we've become like on a constant rat race. We've forgot what we're doing. We're just running after things, after the other. We get an iPhone, we want iPhone 101 after that, right? We're always chasing. And I'm just saying, number one, because I'm going to try to keep this really short, flip your mindset. Instead of chasing what you don't have, look at what you do have. Really simple stuff, and suddenly you start seeing things you took for granted appearing in your mind, like you didn't even realize they were there.
What do you say to people that has got millions and they still want more?
Yeah, they're suffering from the same problem the poorer people are having.
Like, look at people, they've got billions of pounds, billions of dollars. They still go outside to get more and more and more and more.
And by the way, not everybody does that. I'm going to give you examples of people who are doing exact opposite and are much happier, right? So what you've got in your mind is because what you see is the West, but there are people in the East who are much happier with loads of money, and you're seeing that in the World Cup at the moment. I'm going to give you examples of that in a minute, right? So number two, okay, this is the thing that people are struggling with, and the massive reason why people are unhappy and depressed is because they hate God. Right, I'm going to do a three-step breakdown of where that's coming from. Okay, so I'm going to say you need to have God awareness to be in a giving society to be happy. I'm going to break that down. So why do you need? I'm going to get to the God bit in a second, but why do you need to be in a giving society to be happy, or a generous society to be happy? Right now, what we see in real time in this country and all over the West, depression going up as people become more selfish, that they don't even talk to their neighbours, they don't smile at people on the street, okay? No, it hasn't been all the time. It's actually getting worse. It's becoming worse as people getting away from God. Okay, this is statistically true that as people... let me just finish it. Because I'm just saying statistically, they say, the psychologists are saying, even atheist psychologists are saying, I'm a Muslim, by the way, but I'll give a statistic on behalf of like Christianity in this country. As congregations in churches are going down, people are getting more depressed, and it's completely obvious because we're social beings, and church has got to keep people together once a week. It has some value.
I don't want to talk about religion. That is what you're sort of saying, because the minute that you put religion into it, I think you lost the argument about happiness. Do you know what I mean? Because there's many people that might going to say something else about religion. So
if you just see religion as you can choose to follow it, and you can choose to ignore it. Nobody's forcing you to follow it. It's just like, when you have self-help books. There's a whole bunch of self-help books. You can choose to follow it or not. And all I'm saying.
What you said, because the reason why you're not happy because you need God.
I haven't got to the point about God bit yet. Why that's necessary, but I'll explain in a second. But go on. What were you going to say?
So you say you went to the Middle East, right?
Yeah.
And the whole society and all that, it's different there.
Yeah, people are smiling, help each other more. Yeah.
People are very religious, very religious,
Sure.
and I'm sure you know that in Middle East, that people are very religious, Muslim as well.
They're religious to some extent, but they're not perfect at all. But yeah, go on.
How do you know that, brother?
Because they still are corrupt in many ways as well.
How do you know that?
Because I lived there and had to tell people, like if I didn't pretend I was an Arab on a taxi, they'd try to rip me off, for example. There's lots of things like that, but there are lots of good things as well. But anyway, I don't want to go into it too much. There are some good things that they are following and they're benefiting from. That's what I want to focus on.
I mean, like that very simple people, right? Who live in, like small villages, right? And you know what I mean, like in Asia, and they are religious, Muslim as well.
Sure. What's your point? Okay, I agree.
You're saying, right? The lack of following God, right, causes you into depression. Yeah. So what if the people are religious, but at the same time the society don't accept them? Wouldn't that cause them depression and lack of happiness?
So depression.
For example, I'm in Pakistan, right? Let's say I'm in Pakistan and I'm Muslim. I practice religion all the time, but then the community or the society there, right, look down on me. Do you think that won't cause depression or
Okay,
lack of
so
happiness?
they're some of the happiest people in the world who, because they're struggling for a cause they believe in, they're happier than the people who have no problems at all. This is a very common thing. Like in this country, people have food, okay, they have shelter, but yet they're depressed. Depression is going up besides having stuff. It's not about having stuff. I want to go back to the psychology because Viktor Frankl, who's like one of the main psychologists on this topic of happiness, he said happiness is not from things, it's from meaning, leading a meaningful life. Okay, and you can see that we're in some of the richest countries in the world, yet people are just depression is just going up and up and up. The people who live are happiest the most have a meaningful life, and this is where I'm going to bring it back to God now. So I said, first of all, you need to be sharing things with each other to be happy. If you're selfish, you're going to be lonely, you're going to be depressed because we're a social animal, so we need that. It's a basic thing. But what has that got to do with God? So I'm going to explain it in two ways. Practically, what we're seeing, okay, we can see practically, only recently it's come in the news that Christianity has become a minority religion, okay? This is just a sign of the times. The amount, give me 1 minute, give me the picture of what's happening. The picture is religion, godliness is all going down. We're becoming a godless society. We're forgetting all the rules, okay? And then depression is going down at the same time. And we can see the value of religions. Even if I don't agree with Christianity, there are many good things about it, like it brings people together and things like that, right? On the other hand, because we've got the World Cup at the moment, I want to give you an example of the World Cup. We can see that people from here going to Qatar, whatever, however you want to pronounce it, right? Okay, they're so amazed by how the families who are standing outside the stadiums, people from Qatar, and they're giving sweets for free, and they're sharing, and they're inviting people to their houses, to the extent that the Brazilian football coach, was literally crying how kind one man, for example, was. Yeah, but do you get that? But do you know why all these people are sharing and caring while you don't see that in this country? Why people invite? Why? Do you know what the difference is?
What I'm saying, the difference is people are more likely to be tribalistic, and I think, I don't know.
People are more likely to be what?
Tribalistic.
They're not tribalistic. They're opposite of tribalistic. They've been caring for complete strangers. I'm giving you the example of Qatar.
Say different things because you took it all the way to Qatar. Do you know what I'm saying? But there's many people that also might say, about who built the stadiums and all of that and so forth.
What stadium?
Who built the stadiums,
Right.
and the people that have been treated poorly.
Right, and they're trying to improve that, and they did lots of things to improve that. Yeah, and there are also some technical difficulties. But Qatar is a one-city country. Okay, I don't support everything they do. Everybody's got weaknesses, and there's similar weaknesses on other countries. So it's really rude that the British press has unfairly been plotting against Qatar, right? And not saying all the good things.
The media's always been like that.
Right, okay. So we shouldn't swallow their lies then.
No, what I'm saying is the media's always been biased. Even in this
So we shouldn't just follow what they're saying.
Yeah. Even in this country, the media's been biased towards people of colour.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Right? So I agree with you that the media's always biased, but the thing is, there's a problem that it's not been addressed as well back in what you said, the World Cup. If he said, in order to be happy, I disagree with you saying that you need God. You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying, can you see that in this country, people, if we had the World Cup here, you wouldn't see families giving sweets for free out of their own choice. Okay. No, this is not talking about charities. We're talking about people doing it on their own behalf. Not charity. They're not doing it for poor people. They're doing it for everybody who comes.
That's what I'm saying to you. What you're talking about, are you talking about the Middle East, yeah?
Yeah, I'm talking about right now in Qatar. If you go on YouTube, you'll see that, and I think it's really worth watching. Literally, why would the Brazilian coach be crying? Let me just finish the story, and then you tell me if this is special or not. Okay, he was crying because of the kindness that one Arab stranger, and this is not unusual, by the way, because I lived in the Middle East. It's not unusual. One Arab stranger saw his daughter with two kids. One of kids were sleeping on her, right, and she was stuck. She was obviously in trouble, right, difficulty. And what he said, complete stranger, he said, "Can I pick up your son and take him with you wherever you want, without batting an eyelid?" Right? I can tell you how common this is where I lived in the Middle East, right? Okay, and so he was crying because it was so strange for him. He wouldn't cry if it was normal where he comes from, right? So this is special, and I'm telling you that all of this happened only because he believes in God.
He might have got a different. He might have got a different culture back in Brazil. So he.
Is it? What about over here? What about over here? Do you see people doing that over here in this country?
People do that. If you go to food banks, there's sort of charities that have to be put in place.
I'm not talking about charities. I'm talking about in the streets.
Charities, it's the same as that giving something for free.
I see even here in this country, there are old people standing up and people don't give them seats.
No, but
It's black and white.
no. It depends on the person individually, though.
No, I'm talking about society. I'm talking about London. This is what I see every day.
I've seen people that giving seats up as well. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's not like you're saying that there's some people are selfish that way anyway. You're not gonna go to the Middle East and they're not gonna give you a seat.
Yeah. I'm talking about generally statistically. Do you know what the biggest killer in London is?
What's the bit? You told me.
Loneliness. That means despite there being so many people are so selfish they don't talk to each other. And I've done a lot of things to encourage people.
I said that in London. It's
No, I'm talking about all of London. This is a normal statistic, and it's a Western problem specifically. Yeah. I've got the data. Always give references. So on the video, well, I mean, I'm not going to Google search it right now. My phone is the camera. Listen. What I'll do is I'll give my card. I mean, anybody can search this. It's really easy. It's not even hidden data. It's actually common knowledge amongst psychologists, right? Okay. So I'm glad it's new to you because that's why I need to make people aware that it's actually quite known.
I know a lot of people are depressed. I know there's depression is going on.
And do you agree there's loneliness is a problem?
I think I rather disagree with you because there's some certain sector of the population that's got a loneliness problem. But the thing is, not all of the population, you know what I'm saying? Because we're living in tribalistic society at the moment. We're living in like divided society. Do you know what I'm saying? It's even though people are saying that it's diverse.
You know how divided it is? It's so divided that families are totally divided and breaking down, okay? And because of that, as a statistic that's coming out of it, we're having a population implosion. Do you know what that means? Do you know that there's a population implosion? That population is disappearing really quickly.
I know what it means. I know.
Okay. And why does that happen? It's because families are failing.
No, but that's not true though. Because if you look at the census recently, they were saying that Britain becomes more diverse because you got right now the Asian population actually risen up, and
that's why it's not too bad because do you know the number one? Do you know the people who? No. Well, okay, I'll tell you why. Because the people who are not religious, they're the ones who are suffering the most from these family issues. This is a statistic. You can check it, and I always put all sorts of references with my videos, by the way, okay, on my website, and I link it. But you know the number one group that has the most children?
Well, I can't really tell you what
Muslims.
Oh, right, but I disagree. I disagree.
You can check it out, and I'll put the references.
No,
it's already like on all sorts of newspapers.
I disagree with you, but this is based on what though?
On statistics that I didn't produce, that are on newspapers and everything.
Is that based because there's higher number of migration of Muslim people of Muslim heritage into the UK?
Yeah.
But if you talk about,
I have lots of children. I have lots of children.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm not an immigrant.
No. I'm saying to you because you're saying that Muslims have got the highest number of giving birth.
That's right, and it's a demonstration of how our family values work.
I disagree on that one.
Sure. Okay, so at the point, like I said, it's not about me necessarily forcing my opinions. I'm very happy that you're here, and I don't want to make it too boring to go round and round in circles. It's like I shared information, you shared information, that's fantastic, right? Okay, and the last bit, because I really wanted to do like the fastest video that I've ever done before, because normally, you know how long it is normally, right? Okay, so I'm going to go to the last bit, which is how you can have happiness for the whole world, okay? And hopefully this will be a bit mind-blowing in some way, right? So there's one thing that all religions been Christianity and Judaism and Islam be supposedly forbid for thousands of years, but only Islam is the only one that upholds this for everybody, right? Okay, so for thousands of years, this one evil thing that religions are being forbidding, okay, which is interest, okay. But Islam or Muslims are the only ones who really think it's applicable to everybody. So in Christianity, people don't really follow the Bible, so they ignore that part of the Bible.
Disagree now.
Okay, I love to see where you disagree. And the Jews, they say it's really bad, but we can charge other people interest, but forget the Jews, we won't charge them interest, right? Okay, but if Muslims say everybody shouldn't be paying interest, it's really bad if you can avoid it. Well, how do you disagree?
No, I disagree because you're saying that.
Oh, can I just come back? Maybe I'm out of shot.
Yeah. So I disagree because you're saying that some people are paying interest.
Appreciate it. Am I in shot? Thank you.
Do you have a bank account?
Yes, so I try to avoid interest as much as possible.
There you go. That's what I'm saying to you. But even if you're a Muslim, that's what I'm saying. Even
that's
if you're
right.
Muslim,
No, but in principle,
you're paying interest. What if you got like a Barclays bank or anything like that? You're still paying interest. If you got a mortgage,
I might be getting 1 penny interest. Yeah.
no, you are. Everybody in this
That's right,
country.
that's
If
right.
you got savings,
Okay.
you're also
No, thank you for pointing that out. My point is, so that what I'm trying to do is I talk about how you can personally change your life, and you can personally change your life if you avoid interest by avoiding what's it called, credit cards and things like that, right? Okay. And you might say, how can you avoid it?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. But I'm also talking. Go on then.
The only way to avoid interest in this country by not having a bank account.
Right, I agree. We're so embroiled in the system, and interest is part of the system that's hard to avoid. I agree, right? Okay. What I was trying to say here is there are different levels of how you can buy happiness, and I also like to talk about what governments can do for a better world, because we need to do that. If you don't have a way of how we can move forward to make the world a better place, then we're in trouble. Right? Okay, so I kind of do it at different levels, at the individual level and the government level. And hopefully you find this really interesting. Next, why interest is so dangerous. I'm going to tell you 3 things out of many. Okay, one is it robs the poor to give to the rich. Okay, did you know that?
No, I agree.
Right?
I know that.
Perfect. So that's why I like to call it the reverse Robin Hood, because you know Robin Hood. Do you know Robin Hood? What he did, right? He robbed the rich to give to the poor. Interest is the exact opposite. If you don't know why, he understands why, but I'll very quickly explain in a few sentences. Poor people pay interest on loans, and rich people get interest simply by putting their billions of pounds in the account, and they get millions of pounds for doing nothing. What were you going to say?
No, I agree, because if you pay 20,000 pounds in your bank account, then you get interest as well. You get paid. The bank will give you interest based on a yearly basis, isn't it?
Sure.
Because I know that. But
And only rich people can do that. Poor people don't have any money saved.
I think rich people, poor people, people that has got businesses, also they get interest and they get paid a hell of a lot of money than people that don't have businesses.
Right.
I agree with you on that kind of thing, but it doesn't mean that basically you're going to be happy.
Yeah, no. Okay, so we're trying to improve the world bit by bit, right? So I said one thing is it creates inequality, this reverse Robin Hood method, right? Interest. That's one bad thing. Okay, the next bad thing is all Western governments are always borrowing money, and they have to keep making more money to pay back those loans. So England, for example, Britain.
Let me interrupt on that one.
Go on.
Because like you see the purpose of money itself. Because where is the factory? Where do you make the money?
Okay, so that's another thing where it's printed out thin air. Yes.
Yeah, who prints those money?
Okay.
The illusion that they tell you that the Western country they're going to print more money and they have debts. How are you going to have that? They can't have debts on themselves because they print the money themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So
But, okay, I agree that it's a facade to rob the poor, right? Okay, but I'm going to also say that using this facade, what they have is a never-ending cycle where they still tell the world that they have to borrow money to pay back to these banks, and who owns these banks is another interest.
Which is propaganda. Which
Sure.
is propaganda by the media.
Okay, tell me what you think about this one idea, right? Okay, so GDP is how we measure how much the country is making, and according to economists, we have to keep growing our GDP to keep up with payments, okay, debt payments, right? And the only way you can make more money every year on year, is basically you have to mine the world. Why do you have to mine the earth? Because all wealth comes from the ground. Like if you want to make a computer, it needs metal, it needs bits and pieces, right? So you have to keep mining it. So that means this system, interest-based system, system forces you to mine the world to death. What do you think about that?
I think the system. We agree that we need resources. We need natural, like from farming to all of that kind of stuff, in order to live as a human being. But the thing is, again, goes back to money again, because you're talking about who prints those money banknotes. Do you know what I mean? Whoever prints those banknotes, yeah, they're the one that will get to propagate and have that propaganda and sell the narrative to other people and tell them that, oh, we've been piled with a lot of debts after debts after debts.
I think you're going to agree with.
Country that all prints money, yeah.
So it is a big scam. I agree.
Scam.
Okay, I'll show you. Shall I tell you one of the biggest scams now? I think you'll like this one. Number 3, why we should avoid interest. Because if we didn't have interest, we couldn't have wars. The Iraq War cost over $2 trillion. No country has that much money. Where does it come from? Oh, the banks. For hundreds of years, banks have been paying both sides of every war. The First World War, the Second World War, they paid the Nazis to carry on the wars. So, Switzerland, American banks, they're all into it, but they're still, not shut down. Somehow they're just carrying on. So it is very interesting. Where does money come from?
The Iraqi people are still paying for that war. So
in their lives.
And where do you think all of these oil contracts are coming out of Iraq? It's not going to the people. Most of it's going back to pay the.
You say something about Iraq, because who took the American to Iraq? Some Iraqis that all lives in this country or other places, they went over there because otherwise they don't know the streets.
Right. Oh yeah. I know those people. There are people who like Kurdish people. I don't hate on Kurdish people, but I remember a Kurdish bakery, and they were saying they literally helped a lot of the Americans around there because. But I don't hate because
he was an Iranian, Ahmed Chalabi. He was with Bush, basically selling that war at the time.
So there's lots of people.
He's an Iranian. He's not. He's not.
So there's a lot of people who sell their countries out, which is fine, but there's not a really good reason. What happens is, I know, like, I've got family from Syria, for example, and they pay people in Syria to cause trouble in the country, and then when Bashar, I'm not a big fan of Bashar 100%, but he had to quash the rebels, and then that was an excuse for everybody else, all the Western governments, to start bombing the whole country, right? But they just wanted the oil pipe, right? Okay. So anyway, just to finish it off, people say that we need interest-based loans, and I'm going to tell you the alternative, which is an amazing system called zakat, which is basically a wealth tax. Okay, it basically taxes only the rich, because it only taxes people who have spare money, money that's lying around for 1 year. If that's not used, the government will tax it only 2.5%. Right? This is the most amazing tax, because people who are poor, they don't live on their wealth, they live on their income, right? Because they just got enough to keep going, right? They don't have spare money. It's only the rich who have spare money, right? So it's an amazing system that encourages the rich to reinvest their spare money into the poor, into companies, so that everybody gets that wealth and it's shared amongst all people.
That's what is happening here in England at the moment, because what you look at, the rich putting the money into houses, putting the money into kind of institutions, and giving out to the poor in form of benefits and all that kind of stuff, because it's like feudalism. The feudal system back in the day is being reinvented over and over and over and readjusted again, and that's what has been happening in England.
Oh, that's good, but some people are not doing that. Like Jeff Bezos, I loved him when he was building Amazon, when he was busy building Amazon. He lived in this, had a rubbish car. He didn't care about that. Everybody knew he was following. But now he's got nothing to do. He's buying like a 300-room or 600-room ship, and he's doing all sorts of ridiculous things with his money. And I'm not hating on Jeff Bezos. What happens when you have loads of money? You become lost and corrupt. Okay, and what this tax does, it cleanses your morality by saying, listen, don't keep all this money because you're going to get stupid with it, and keep helping people with your money, investing in it. And it's much better than interest-based loans, because I'm finishing off here. Okay, it's much better than interest-based loans, because the banks, they don't care if you can't pay, because they'll take your house. Okay, but a real investment is different. It's like if you invest, if the rich person invests money properly, they will get their money back. They'll invest properly, but they don't get their money back from a poor person who can't pay their money. Their investment is different from a loan.
Again, it's a system of exploiting people. They're trying to exploit people, and that's how it is. Because if the poor didn't come up together and figure out how actually to speak up to the rich, then that's what has been happening all the time. And now, for example, we've got the coronavirus. We've got right now, we've got a government in the UK that unelected. Rishi Sunak and three prime ministers, they've not been elected. So democracy has been gone out the window.
Right. Okay.
It's
So
got nothing to do with interest. It's all about monetary policy, quantitative easing. Like you said
isn't that a
earlier.
good economic policy that would stop wars?
No, basically, it's all coming down to the petrodollar. The United States is what basically governs the Western world's financial system. So if the United States increase the interest rates, we bring up the interest rates. You're welcome to see the charts, historical charts. Whenever they reduce the interest rates, we reduce the interest rates. So we are very much intertwined with the United States. So the reason we are is because US has the world's reserve currency, and they have what you call a petrodollar. So it's all based on the petrodollar. So the world is forced to buy oil, commodities, gold,
Okay, so-
using the dollar,
Sure.
and basically they have this dollar that's kind of circulating around the world. And this dollar, only thing you can do.
How
with
would
this dollar-
people pay for wars if there weren't banks funding them?
Yeah. So let me finish. So with this dollar, it goes. They have all of these countries have to keep these dollars in their central banks, right? Because they need to buy commodities with it, oil, etc. So what happened to Russia? There was 300 billion in the central banks, and the United States basically sanctioned it and they've frozen it. So like China's got over like 3 trillion, Japan's got like 1 trillion. So what happens is when the world's coming, when the dollar is so strong, right, and the dollar gets stronger and the pound gets weaker, you have to pay more for oil.
So are you saying the petrodollar is the cause for wars?
No,
Because that's what I was talking about. I'm talking about saving the environment. I'm talking about income inequality.
I'm talking about wars right now.
But I think it's important. Would you not agree that income inequality is an important problem? And I'm just talking about some solutions to those things.
Look,
Yeah.
the reason the
Okay,
war
cool.
in Ukraine is nothing to do with the petrodollar.
Right. I'm talking about solving. So I'm agreeing with you that petrodollar is not the only solution, because the petrodollar is a new thing since 1970 something, right? Yeah.
The great migration happening.
So anyway, I'm just gonna wind up. I'm just gonna stop recording, but we can carry on talking. Yeah.